Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, everyone. I welcome you all in this presentation in my African American course, supervised by Dr. Muhammad Al Laythi from Imam Muhammad bin Saud University in Riyadh. In this presentation, I will examine the crucial role of the Black mothers in Jamaica Kincaid's novel Lucy and Morrison's Beloved, and also in the play by Lorraine Hansberry that's titled A Raisin in the Sun. My argument is that in the three works, mothers or Black mothers function as the most significant family member through their moral authority, emotional power, and survival based parenting, and as the emotional foundation within Black families and communities as well. Through literature that actually reflects real life experiences, Black mothers in particular have often emerged not only as caregivers, but as figures of authority, resilience, and ethical guidance, shaping the identity across generation. So even for the kids and grandchildren. So, by examining this theme, inshallah, in these three influential classical works, we can gain, I believe, that we can gain a deeper insight into how love, sacrifice, and strength operate as forms of survival, resistance in the face of historical and social challenges. So, here is the content that we will cover, inshallah. The three work here. We will start with Lucy, then Beloved, then A Raisin in the Sun. Okay, so let's start with Lucy. Um, Rather than offering a sentimental portrayal, Kincaid here presents motherhood as a demanding and often painful position, shaped by history and racialized experience. And to understand why this or Lucy's mother holds such power, I believe that we must first situate the novel within its historical and literary context. The novel was published in 1990 and is widely read as a semi autobiographical novel. And while the novel follows Lucy's migration and growing independence, or let's say like coming of age story, the emotional center remains her relationship with her mother. The mother's influence persists across distance, as any person who reads the novel will find, making the mother the dominant family figure despite her physical absence. So Kincaid resists idolizing Black motherhood and instead she presents it as a complex, painful, and powerful presence. The novel insists that maternal authority must be read within historical and racial realities, even if it was implicitly done, not of course explicitly done. So, within this context in mind, we can now examine how the mother functioned as Lucy's first and most enduring authority. So, in the novel, actually, from the first pages, the reader can see how the mother is the primary authority figure within the family and within Lucy's life. She controls discipline, morality, and ambition, and critics such as like Susan, a lot of critics actually, like here, they argue that Kincaid's mothers often occupy the full weight of parental power, reflecting Black family structures shaped by historical necessity rather than patriarchal hierarchy. However, this authority does not operate gently. No, it's expressed through control. Lucy experiences her mother's love as invasive, especially during the early ages of childhood. The mother's intense regulation of Lucy's choices transforms care into emotional pressure, actually. Some critics they pointed out that Kincaid exposes how black maternal love often adopts authority forms as a response to vulnerability rather than cruelty. This controlling love is closely connected to the mother's investment in colonial education, if we can say, or if we can interpret. Uh, why? Because here, as we can see, the gender and respectability. Lucy's mother actually she takes pride in her daughter's success within the colonial educational system in their country, their Caribbean country. However, Lucy describes how her mother was so proud of her excellent grades. However, we find that Lucy has different opinion because she rejects this system, this colonized oriented educational system that was simplified by Lucy's rejection of Wordsworth's poem, which symbolizes a deeper rejection of both colonial ideology and her mother's also belief in it. Some scholars argue that the mother's complicity reflects survival logic, kind of assimilation, let's say. So, education is seen as the only path also to safety, especially for girls. Education is only one aspect of the mother's broader role as a cultural enforcer, as we can see in the other section. So Lucy's mother enforces strict gender norms that were rooted in respectability politics, if we can say. She teaches Lucy how to behave as a black girl in a judgmental world. One of the critics explains that black motherhood often involves preparing daughters for survival rather than self expression. Which is interesting actually. So Kincaid presents the mother as emotionally restrained because tenderness is risky for them in their world hostile to black women. Her I don't want to say cruelty, but let's say like her severity reflects inherited survival strategies. As also some critics note, black mothers are often tasked with protecting their children from structural harm rather than offering emotional emotional comfort alone, as Colin remark. Now, the remarkable thing actually is that even after Lucy leaves home, the maternal authority does not disappear. So, in Lucy's coming of age journey in America, no, we still have the presence of the mother, either in her thinking, in her own head, or in the letters. The mother's letters actually function as emotional instruments of control. They reinforce obligation, disappointment, and expectation as well. According to one of the critics, these letters ensure that the mother remains psychologically present, demonstrating that maternal power transcends physical space. Ironically, distance intensifies rather than weakens this influence. Uh, Lucy was running away from her mother, but no, actually, her presence continues there. So, although Lucy migrates far away, her mother becomes an internalized presence, shaping her emotional life even in America. Critics argue that this demonstrates how maternal authority is carried within the self, reinforcing the mother's position as the most important family member, of course, and even like the most important person in her daughter's life. These elements help explain how the mother dominates the family structure in general, and how her emotional power is rooted in a lifetime of survival under constraint. However, let's see how here how Lucy responds to this survival-based motherhood with resistance or rejection as well. Lucy's rejection of her mother is an attempt um, of reclaiming autonomy. However, however, this rejection confirms the mother's The mother's like crucial or central role. Lucy defines herself largely in opposition to her mother, revealing how deeply maternal influence structures her identity. She can't like she can't actually detach herself from her mother. So the mother is the most important family member because she shapes Lucy's values, identity, and emotional development. Therefore, Lucy's independence is formed through confrontation with the maternal authority of her mother. In the novel, motherhood is defined by endurance and authority, and this forces readers to reconsider how race and history might be reason and might shape this maternal expectations as well. In conclusion, for this part, for the first part, because we have three parts, Lucy presents the Black Mother as the most significant family member because she embodies survival, authority, continuity, and even in the conflict, her influence remains decisive, shaping Lucy's identity long after separation. So even in America, Lucy couldn't detach herself from her mother. On the contrary, no. Her identity is not formed or shaped except in opposition to her mother. Let's move on to the second part, which is Morrison's Beloved, which is one of the most influential novel by Morrison, or even in the American literature in general, especially the African American literature. This novel was first published in 1987, but it's set primarily in 1873 in Ohio, Cincinnati. Yeah. Uh, just after the American Civil War, if you can see the date here. Our focus in this presentation is to examine the importance of a Black motherhood in Morrison's beloved through two central maternal figures, Sethi here and Baby Suggs, her mother in law. My point is that Morrison presents these two women as the most significant members of their family and also to the community because they embody protection, memory or rememory, survival, and moral authority under slavery and even the aftermath of that awful period. So, to understand their importance, we must begin with Morrison's broader vision of Black motherhood. As you can see here, we started with the Black motherhood in general. In Beloved, mothers seem to exist under extreme, oh, no, not seem, of course, they exist actually under extreme violence, especially as slaves. Enslaved women, they were denied ownership of their children, bodies, and time, as we have seen in the novel, and as actually shockingly read in the novel. Therefore, Morrison redefines motherhood not as nurture alone, no. It was a kind of an act of resistance. Maternal love becomes radical because survival itself is uncertain. So, within this framework, Seti, for example, she emerges as the most controversial Black mother in American literature, undeniably. Let's see how. Who's Seti? She's an enslaved mother of four, and she had problems. She has like not problems. No, she had no, it's trauma. Yes. So Seti is introduced primarily as a mother. Her identity is inseparable from her children. And actually, every major action she takes, like escaping, being silent, violence as well, they all were motivated by her maternal instincts or wish of protection or acts of protection. So Morrison insists that Sethi must be read, and actually, for me, I totally believe in that. I believe that we should read Seth or Sethi as a mother shaped by slavery, not as a moral abstraction, not as a regular or ordinary mother. No, she's not. She's not ordinary at all. Reading her life and her experiences that she had, the horrified experiences or like incidents that she had, doesn't make her any normal human being. So Seti's motherhood is inseparable from the trauma of slavery. You can't separate them both. Like you can't separate her from the trauma of slavery. And one of the most devastating moments in the novel is Seth's memory of her breast milk being stolen by school teachers' nephews. This act symbolizes the complete violation of Black motherhood. Not only bodies, no, but even like the sense of Blackhood, the things that it belongs to her, and that was cruel. So her body is reduced to labor as if she was a cow and reproduction, denying her the most basic maternal autonomy. This violation explains the extremity of Seti's later decision and might like I'm not going to say justify, but let's say like explain. Yes, just explain, not excused, but just explain her later decisions. So the maternal love as total possession, yeah, that's totally was done, or we can read it with Seti, because Seti's maternal love is absolute. She claims her children as her best thing in the world. She reveal her devotion, and also this feeling reveals danger as well, especially as clarified by Baldi, who said to love your children that much is not good for a previously enslaved woman. Morrison here shows how under slavery love becomes possessive because separation is inevitable. للأسف. So excessive love becomes both a shield and wound. Unfortunately, this overwhelming love shapes Seti's life. So, Seti's infanticide or killing of her daughter, infant, must be read again within this context of slavery's brutality. Morrison doesn't ask us to approve the act, of course, because it's like it's brutal, but to understand it at least, just to understand her. Cities chooses death over enslavement because, in her word, slavery is a fate worse than death. And she doesn't want her kids to experience that. So the act of infant side defines Seti as a mother willing to cross moral boundaries for protection, for protecting her children. Furthermore, even after the infant side, Siti remains the emotional center of the family to her other daughter, Denver. Actually, Denver's identity, fears, and growth are all structured around her mother. Siti's trauma becomes inherited, demonstrating how Black motherhood carries memory across generations. Yet, Cities doesn't uh, was not the only mother in the novel. No, we have baby Sachs, who provides an alternative model, actually. Let's now see her. Unlike Seti's private motherhood, Baby Suggs practices public maternal care. She presents an older generation of Black motherhood, having lost most of her children to slavery. She emerges not only as mother, grandmother, or Seti's mother's-in-law, but also as a community healer and a spiritual leader. Her motherhood expands beyond bloodliness, and Baby Suggs offer a communal vision of Black motherhood. Her ceremonies in the clearing teach formerly enslaved people to love their flesh, hearts, and sorry, and voices. And it's important to see how this radical instruction in this world that devalues Black bodies. Um, we have her. So her maternal role extends to the entire community, making her a moral center. Baby Sug's authority is spiritual rather than institutional. She replaces churches and laws that failed Black people, which is interesting. As a Black mother, she becomes a moral guide whose authority is rooted in survival and care. She draws upon the beauty of nature to make the community of ex slaves recognize the beauty in themselves to empower them. In a beautiful way, she provides a nurturing and healing presence for those scarred by slavery. However, even this maternal strength has limits. After the community turns against Sethi, Baby Suggs retreats into exhaustion and silence, and also especially after her grand sons, the two of them, they left. Morrison shows the emotional cost of sustaining others endlessly, which might be possible. Even the strongest Black mother cannot survive without communal support, which is one of the basic themes in the novel. The power of community in sustaining the previously enslaved people. They need their communities and the communal support. This withdrawal leaves Sethi dangerously isolated, actually, and without Baby Sug's stabilizing presence, Sethi's motherhood turns also inward and destructive. Her unresolved trauma creates space for the ghost beloved's return later on. Which illustrates what happens when maternal care is unsupported, as some scholars pointed out. So, as we can see, this contrast between these two mothers is crucial. Seti and Baby Suggs represent two modes of Black motherhood. Seti acts and Baby Suggs reflects. Seti protects through violence, Baby Suggs heal through love, and together they illustrate the impossible demands placed on Black mothers. Yet both are equally central and necessary to their families. And beloved fathers are kind of preferred, while mothers carry emotional, moral, and historical responsibility, which is interesting. Seti and Baby Suggs hold the family together, making them the most important figures in both household and the community. This maternal centrality has broader implication, actually. Morrison position Black mothers as living archives of history. Through memory and storytelling, they preserve experiences erased from official records. So, motherhood becomes a vehicle for historical truth. Also, Morrison forces readers into moral discomfort. You can We can read Seth's love as saving and destroying in the same time. Baby Sug's love heals and exhausts, could be, and this ambiguity reflects the impossibility of moral purity under slavery, as some scholars affirm. Ultimately, motherhood becomes an act of defiance and resistance, which is one of the basic themes in the novel. Loving Black children in a world that seeks to destroy them becomes a political act. Seti and Baby Suggs refuse erasure through maternal devotion. So, in conclusion to this part, Seti and Baby Sag are the most important figures in the novel because they embody Black motherhood as also survival, memory or rememory, and moral authority. Morrison honors their love without simplifying it, revealing motherhood as both devastating and necessary. Next, we will move to this play, the three-act play by Lorraine Hansberry. Um, this influential play, that's considered one of the American classics nowadays, was first produced and published in 1959 and set in the 1950s in general in one crammed apartment on Chicago's South Side. In my presentation, I want to examine the significance of Black motherhood in this three-act play through the two major maternal figures, Lena, younger, often called Mama, and Ruth, younger, her daughter in law. I argue that these women function as the moral, emotional, and structural centers of the younger family. Through their labor, sacrifice, and ethical vision, Hansberry represents Black motherhood as the foundation of family survival and dignity. To understand their importance, we must situate them within the play's historical context. The period of 1950s in Chicago in particular was marked in all America actually, but it was marked by segregation, limited housing opportunities, and economic inequality. That's why we have later on the civil rights movements in the 60s. For Black women, motherhood involved not only care but endurance. So Hansberry situates Lena, or Mama, and Ruth within these constraints, showing how mothers often carry the emotional and moral weight of the family. Within this context, Hansberry introduces Lena Younger as the family moral center and the head of the family after the death of her dead husband. So, Lena Younger is the matriarch of the family and the primary moral authority in the household. She's widowed and she's like a domestic servant, a working class. So, she represents an older generation shaped by hardship, faith, and endurance of a Black American. Mama's authority does not come from wealth or social power, but from lived experience and moral conviction. And her motherhood is deeply tied to her role as the family's ethical guide. Mama constantly grounds the family in ethical principles, and she values dignity over profit and integrity over convenience. Her moral guidance shapes key decisions in the play, especially in moments of crisis. As a black mother, she functions as the consciousness or conscious of the household. So, interestingly, Mama is associated with one symbol in the play, which captures her maternal role particularly well, and that is the planet. Mama's plants symbolizes her approach to motherhood, actually. Like the plant, the family survives in an environment with limited resources. Mama's care sustains life under conditions that threaten growth. The plant reflects Black motherhood as patient, persistent, and hopeful. So, Mama's maternal authority becomes most visible in how she manages the family's future and the insurance money that they get from the father's death places Mama in a position of responsibility. Rather than using it for personal comfort, for example, she invests in the family future by purchasing a home, which, as she said to her to Travis, her grandson, she said, "I bought it for you, for me, your father, and for you." So her decision reflects maternal leadership rooted in collective advancement rather than individual ambition. Mama's authority, however, is not uncontested, no, especially by her son, Walter. Mama's relationship with Walter reveals the complexity of Black motherhood. She struggles to support her son's dreams while maintaining moral boundaries. Her disappointment is not rejection, but concern. She disciplines Walter because she believes in his potential. While Mama represents long term vision, Ruth embodies everyday maternal survival, which we will see together here. So, Ruth Younger represents a younger generation of Black mothers. She is a wife, mother, and a wig worker whose life is defined by exhaustion and responsibility. That's why I chose here as the weary mother. Unlike Mama's authority, Ruth's power is subtle, expressed through endurance and sacrifice. Ruth's motherhood is inseparable from physical and emotional labor. Ruth performs constant and often invisible labors outside and inside the house. She cleans, cooks, works outside the home, and manages emotional tension even inside the house. Hansberry highlights how Black mothers' labor is essential yet undervalued. Ruth's strength lies in persistence rather than authority, and her maternal burden becomes most evident in her pregnancy. Um, that's why here I focus on how Her consideration of abortion reveals the harsh realities of Black motherhood under poverty, specifically. Her decision is driven not by lack of love, but by fear of bringing another child into this situation, into this hardship, or like the hardship of reality of the realities of life. Hansberry presents this moment with compassion, actually highlighting how structural inequality constrains maternal choice. This moment reveals Ruth's deep sense of responsibility as a mother. As some critics and scholars affirm, Ruth often acts as the emotional stabilizer of the family. She shields her son from tension and attempts to mediate between Mama and Walter. Her emotional labor maintains family cohesion. Even when she is physically exhausted, she continues. So, as we can see together, Mama and Ruth form a maternal partnership, and that was evident throughout the play, actually. Um, they both represent two generations of Black motherhood. Mama provides vision, values, moral leadership, while Ruth sustains the family through daily labor and emotional endurance. Together, they ensure the family's survival, and their combined influence shapes the family's defining decision. This decision to move into the new house is fundamentally maternal. That was done by Mama and uh, like rooted or encouraged by Ruth. To for Mama and Ruth, the house represents safety, stability, and dignity for their children and for their even offspring. This choice becomes an act of resistance against racial segregation as well. The mother's significance here extends beyond the household. Hansberry presents Black motherhood as a form of resistance by insisting on dignity, safety, progress for their children. Mama and Ruth challenge a society designed to limit Black families. So Hansberry avoids sentimentalizing motherhood. No, Lena, sorry, or mother, and Mama, sorry, and Ruth, they love through action, through sacrifice, through discipline, and through endurance. Their strength reflects the realities of Black maternal experience, which were limited rather than idealized norms. So these maternal roles are central to the play's central message as well. Mama and Ruth are the most important family member because they hold the family together emotionally, ethically, and practically, of course. The mother's future depends on their decisions and also on resilience, and their importance has broader literary significance as well. Hansberry centers Black mothers in a narrative often um, read through Walter's ambition. By doing so, she challenges patriarchal readings and foregrounds women's labor and moral leadership, as a lot of critics and scholars have pointed out. And with these insights, we reach the conclusion. In conclusion, the three works share a similar presentation of the mothers as the pillars of the family. The motherhood is defined by endurance, ethical clarity, and sometimes love that is shaped by hardship and long years of enslavement or memories of that. The three authors affirm Black motherhood as essential to family survival, possibility, and more importantly, to the formation of their children's identity and future as well. Analyzing the three significant works, Lucy, Beloved, and A Raisin in the Sun, can affirm how Black mothers are central as moral anchors and authoritative forces within their families and communities as well. Across these influential texts, Black motherhood is not merely a biological role or nurturing role. No, it's a complex site of ethical instruction, emotional endurance, protection, and cultural transmission, and resistance shaped by histories of colonialism, slavery, and racial oppression. Kincaid's portrayal of Lucy's mother reveals maternal authority as both sustaining and constraining, illustrating how moral guidance can coexist with control and generational tension. In Beloved, Toni Morrison elevates motherhood to a radical moral position where City's action, even though very, very troubling and extreme, but still they are rooted in an uncompromising ethics of protection and love forged under the brutal legacy of slavery. In A Raisin in the Sun, Mama Younger functions as the family moral compass, grounding the household in the values of dignity, faith, and collective responsibility amid economic hardship and racial discrimination. And Ruth Younger embodies the quiet yet profound strength of Black motherhood, as her endurance, self sacrifice, and pragmatic care sustain the family's daily survival while reflecting the emotional toll that economic hardship and deferred dreams place on Black maternal figures. Together, these works demonstrates that Black mother figures often assume authority not through institutional power, but through moral insight, sacrifice, and resilience, and their influence shapes familial identity, ethical decision making, and survival across generations. By centering Black motherhood, these texts challenge reductive stereotypes and instead presents Black women as foundational figures whose moral leadership sustains families and asserts humanity in the face of systematic injustice. Here are the references, and thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.